When you're working in a role of support and you're in a school and you're dealing with this dynamic setting, it's important that if you are in that support role, you have some sort of mental model that you are using for yourself to kind of ground your thinking so that you can match what it is your colleague or the person you are coaching or working with or supporting. You're matching it to what they need. You're not trying to assert something that doesn't need to be there or can come off as more work. Hey everyone, Brian, right back here trying to revive some of this content, some of this thinking. And I realized I'm doing a few of these presentations lately and really getting into some of the content that I'm creating. And I thought, what better way to not only ground and clarify my thinking to get back on this channel, but also to provide perhaps some level of value. Now, look, I really don't want to get into this situation where I have to edit a ton of the videos or do anything. I just want to bring the content that I'm working through and that I'm presenting on and push it out in a way that seems sort of natural, uncut, real in the moment, so that maybe you can find a way to use it too. So here we go. Today, I really want to get into when you are in a coaching role or you're in this sort of support role in a school or a building where you're working with leadership or you're coaching coaches. And these are some of the roles that I've been in lately. It could be really hard to navigate these conversations unless you are working from sort of this mental framework or a model of thinking that can really help you to navigate both what you're processing as you're hearing it, but then also to match what it is your colleague or the people you're supporting to match what it is they need, right? Like, what are they really asking for? Now, I just want to be clear that, like, part of this is being really good at the two skills that I think matter most, which are asking the right questions or asking these powerful questions that really bring about good dialogue. But it's also incumbent upon you to listen actively in sort of this engaged mindset where once you ask that question, you are really listening in a way that you are both engaged and motivated by the conversation, but you're also listening for this sort of like, where is this going? Like, where's the content that my colleague needs? Or what's the pathway that they're trying to pursue? And that can be really hard to do. So there are a couple frameworks that I kind of keep in my head that I've been talking about a lot lately. And I just wanted to share just one of those frameworks and perhaps even just a few questions that I think could help to frame those sort of mental models so that you're asking the right questions and really getting on path with like, what's the rationale for the questions you're asking? So let me just jump right into it. There are three sort of, I envision this as a cycle, and I'll put this right here. But if you look at this cycle here, I think there are three parts that you can be using as a mental model. When you're asking questions, you're ultimately trying to help a person figure out where they are, like where's their current reality. And you're trying to navigate the space between that current reality where they are and also where they want to be. Okay, this sort of preferred future. And that can create a lot of tension. But the key is to figure out in that pathway, what sort of mental model are you carrying in the conversation that can really help you both ask questions that are relevant to figure out what path is best, or to really make sure that you're holding it and you're listening actively for like, all right, this feels like if we create this pathway here, there's going to be some energy or some confidence built around this. So the three sort of mental models that I like to hold is this a conversation, or questions I like to ask? Is this a conversation where we are setting a clear foundation for our work together? And what I mean by that is, if I'm in a foundation setting sort of mode where I'm looking for, is this a foundational conversation? I want to ask questions about where they are currently, their current reality, and I want to find out where they want to be, right? Like, I just need to know that. So I'm asking a lot of questions around goals. I'm making sure that I'm digging into what's happening now as sort of like a framework, right? And that all helps me set the foundation for this one session and knowing that I'll come back to it to kind of figure out what are the strategies we can help to get from point A, current reality, all the way to point B. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The next sort of mode or frame that I like to keep in mind is like, is this a conversation, or question I like to ask is this a conversation where we are creating some awareness to something that my colleague may be working through? So this could be something where they come and they're just sort of like in this mode of discovery around, hey, I've been trying this thing with my students, or I've been really implementing X for a certain number of days. And there may be a discrepancy between what they thought was going to happen, or they had these sort of inflated expectations. And now they're moving into this sort of trough of disillusionment, right? Where it's like maybe not working. So it's important for me to kind of like come in with a mindset of, let's create some awareness around the strengths, the things that you're doing really well, that maybe it's not all that bad. Um, and also to create some awareness around what are the possibilities. So it's sort of this, I already know where you are and what you're trying and what your goal is. So you're clear on your current reality or clear on your sort of preferred future. But you may need to be in a mode as a coach where I'm creating awareness around strengths and really navigating sort of like our checks for understanding around like, hey, listen, it's not all that bad. And also some sort of signposts and some awareness to the possibilities. What are the other options that, yep, we've tried X, Y, and Z, but have we really thought about them clearly or done them with fidelity? Or even moving into a case where it's like, hey, forget X, Y, and Z. We're going all the way back to let's start with A, right? And revising the sort of options or the option list that may create some new energy around the goal. And the final one here is really keeping a framework around, is this a conversation where we are designing actions or increasing some sort of accountability? And I don't mean accountability in the sense of like the evaluative sense of accountability. I mean like the personal accountability to the things that you're willing to try and put into practice so that you get to that goal of that preferred future. And one way to really frame that out is to think about, in this section, is this a conversation that I'm having where we're having to design sort of the steps or the process, or maybe we're actually designing some assets or creating some templates or some things that we're going to put into our students' hands as a way to kind of design some content, right? And when I'm listening for that, it's like we're clear on where we are, our current reality. We're clear on our preferred future and our goal, where we want to be. We've got some options, but now we need to create some stuff, or we need to create some actions, or we need to take some different actions. So if I'm in that mode, there are certain questions that I can ask to really tease some of that out. So just to reiterate, if we were to go back to the beginning of this cycle and think about the setting the foundation, there are some really key competencies that you want to operate as a coach. You want to make sure that you're incorporating these key competencies. And that's like really working around, I'm setting the foundation. It may be a new relationship, it may be something that I'm working through, but I'm here to establish some sort of trust in this safe environment, right? Like that's the key competencies when I'm setting the foundation or having this sort of conversation where we're setting the foundation for where you want to be. The way that I might do that is to really get clear on some questions around goals. So it might be setting the foundation around things like, given the time we have today, what's the most important thing we should be talking about? Or perhaps we get into some questions around, what is your hope for this conversation or future conversations and our work together? And then it could be just getting right down to some of the goal work, like what is your desired outcome or goal from our work together? And getting clear on those goals can be really helpful in setting the foundation. Now, there are a number of questions that you can ask beyond that, but mainly these questions are around making sure that I get clear on this preferred future and perhaps what's happening now as it relates to that preferred future and what you want to see change, but also getting clear on things like, once we have the goal, identifying certain strategies that you may have deployed in the past that could come back up, or really planning for potential obstacles. So I might ask questions like, if we try this your goal, whatever you decided, what are the obstacles that may come up that we need to plan for? Or if you achieve this goal, what does that success look like for you or your students? So if we go back to leave setting the foundation, and now we're in that mode or that mental framework of creating awareness. if you were to think about creating awareness as it relates to your job is to listen actively where you help your colleague to create some awareness. So your questioning here really, really matters because again, if you were to think about where they might have been at the beginning of your work, this sort of like inflated expectations, things are going to be great. We have a new goal. I'm excited and charged up by this work. And then now they may be moving into sort of that trough of disillusionment. And that could feel really tricky for people to be in. You feel like you're alone. You feel like things aren't working. You feel like the wheels just completely fell off. And I get that, right? Like we've all been there. As a coach or a support, creating awareness to the strengths or creating awareness to the possibilities, the idea of hope, can be really powerful here. So, asking questions like, what's in your control right now? As you think about the work you've been doing, what have you tried so far that's actually feels pretty good or feels like it is working? What strengths can you actually deploy? I might even raise awareness to your strengths that you can use to kind of manage this situation or make that change. And then I also get into questions like awareness questions like, if you could start this over again, what would you do differently from the beginning? And it's okay to go back and redesign. It's about creating that awareness and saying, like, look, maybe now is a good time to kind of pump the brakes, go back to the beginning and see if we can retool this from the start. I might get clear on what they see as the limitation around progress and then also help them identify what are the obstacles that are getting in the way of that progress. What's getting in the way that is sort of clouding our vision to pursuing a pathway with energy, or the students aren't doing a certain thing. Clearing those pathways out and creating some awareness for the possibilities can be a great way to do it. Getting them to imagine a future where there are no barriers. So I might say, imagine there are no barriers. What would it look like if you were actually achieving this preferred future or this goal? That again increases that awareness, but it also increases hope to a point where we have some pathways that give us some energy and some confidence. And again, the key competencies here when you're creating awareness or you're listening with a lens of awareness is to really listen actively, ask powerful questions, and make sure that we can communicate clearly the pathway that we might be sort of exploring or the dead ends that we may have reached. The last lens is around action, designing action, and increasing or designing accountability. And the key competencies here are that the coach or the support person can help them plan actions that are going to give them, again, confidence and energy, helping them manage their progress or collecting information that proves that their work is actually making a difference towards their preferred future, and helping them increase accountability in a way that is both like sort of respectful of where they ought to be, but also you're this accountability person for like, this is a goal worth pursuing. We chose it for a reason. It's powerful. Now I want to help you get there. And there's some accountability measures that we can put in place that come from a place of respect for the work that we're doing. And these may be questions that you ask that based on what you've been doing so far, what are some actions you can take to work even closer towards the goal that you've been pursuing? These are questions you might ask around things like, what is the current plan? If you are pursuing this current plan, what's the first step we can take? If you take that first step, how will you know it's successful? Or what information or skills do you need to move forward or take that first step? How will you know when you've succeeded or reached that end goal that you're pursuing? We may look into what are the resources that you need. And then I want to put some of that work back on me when I'm in this frame too, where I say, based on our conversation, what supports can I provide? Do you want me in there collecting data? Do you want me in there co-teaching with you? Do you want me in there co-leading anything with you? All of those are offerings that can really help you to amplify your pathway to where you want to be in relation to your goal. So again, that sort of mental framework that you can apply as a coach, you're sitting down with somebody that you care for, that you know is having or pursuing a goal that is worthwhile. I think about three things. I think about, is this a coaching conversation based on where we are in our relationship that is about setting the foundation, getting clear on the goal or getting clear on where they are in their current reality and that preferred future where they want to be? And my key competencies in there are really getting clear on setting a safe environment where you could be upfront and honest with the things that you want to pursue or don't want to pursue. The next part of this mental framework that you can hold as a coach is around, is this a conversation where we are creating some awareness? And again, this is about that part of the sort of change cycle that you can think about where we have inflated expectations. I'm not even sure why I'm sort of like, I have this uninformed optimism about the thing that we're about to do. And then I move into this sort of trough of disillusionment. And what I want to operate from as a coach, I really want to make sure that I'm listening actively. I'm getting clear on asking the right questions. I'm also deploying some compassion and some empathy around things like what are the strengths that maybe you're not seeing that I can help you see, but also moving in the direction of creating some possibilities around options. So all of my questions are around awareness to the strengths. It's not all bad. Awareness to the options going forward so that we get to this sort of slope of enlightenment where we feel pretty good about the things that we're trying. And the last one is all about designing actions and really supporting accountability. And in this stage, I want to help people not only design those actions, but create plans and goals in small steps, these sort of like habits moments where we're like taking the first step and we're sort of building as we go. And in this mode, I'm really looking for sort of clarification on what are the things we've tried, what are the things that are in front of us, how do we pursue some options with energy and confidence, how do we take first small steps and really build them in some sort of compounding way. I don't want my colleague to leave with sort of like this mindset of like it's all bad, I don't know what direction I'm heading. I really want to make sure that they see themselves as a person who has a great sense of agency, that they can control this and that they could take the first step. And then if we continue to take these steps thereafter, we're building sort of momentum and we're heading in the right direction. So there you go. Three sort of operational modes for you to kind of hold in your head as a coach when you're sitting with somebody, knowing what conversation you're in and the types of questions you can ask can really go a long way to making sure that you're supporting your colleagues with a lot of respect, support, and energy around the things that they're doing and really helping people to become their best selves in those moments. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for being here.